circles is your usual suspect. Yes, it is yet another long-awaited night in the UEFA Champions League semi-finals. So we'll be discussing that and more in regards to Barcelona versus Inter Milan. That game does kick off in about 48 minutes from now, or thereabout. So indulge me as we do our routine of testing our audio, so just not to have our fingers burnt, to make sure we're doing everything right. I think we're good to go. I think we're good. I think we are really good. Audio is set. So let's get talking. Barcelona versus Inter Milan. It's another night of the UEFA Champions League. We all know what happened last night. No need going back there. In case you need to know what really transpired or what really happened or what our thoughts were, kindly go to the channel, check out our live broadcast section, and see because we spoke before the game, at halftime, after the game, and even today morning, we're still speaking about the same matter. So there's plenty for you to find out. But anyway, like I said, it's Barcelona versus Inter Milan. That's where our concentration is tonight. Barcelona do miss some significant players like Robert Lewandowski, who is, out injured. They do miss Cardoso, one of those, players that had a very good season. But the starting lineups are out for both managers. That's Hansi Flick on the starting line for Barcelona and Simone Inzaghi for the side of Inter Milan, the Italian reigning champions of the Scudetto. They're looking to reclaim it just as much as Barcelona want to dethrone Real Madrid in the Spanish La Liga. So I'm waiting for you guys to join the broadcast so that we can discuss that and more. So yeah, indulge me, but join the broadcast. I'm waiting for you guys to join and we get it all talking. But it looks like the deal between Carlo Ancelotti and Brazil is collapsing. Then transfer speculation has it that Liverpool are willing to give Arne Slot as much as £200 million for him to sign players the coming summer. Liverpool do have strong interest in signing Alexander Isak from Newcastle. That deal, be sure, will cost them no less than £100 million. Should they be able to pull it off? So it should be anywhere between 120 to 150 million pounds, according to speculation. Is it worth it? Who knows? If it guarantees that you win next season's Premier League title and perhaps the UEFA Champions League, then so be it. So that would be worth it. But anyways, like I said, tonight our concentration is with Barcelona versus Inter Milan, and the starting lineups are out. So here is how Barcelona have assembled themselves. In the goalkeeping, in goal, we do have Vokshek Szczesny, the former Arsenal and ex-Juventus goalkeeper. They have Jules Koundé, Pau Kubasi, Inigo Martinez, and Gerard Martin. Pretty much how we predicted it will be in today morning's broadcast, for those of you that were able to join us. In midfield, it's Frankie de Jong and Pedri. So Gabi doesn't get to start. So it's Frankie de Jong and Pedri. Then next or in front of them is Lamine Yamal, Dani Olmo, and Rafinha. Rafinha there has had a very, very wonderful season. One of those players that Inter Milan must keep an eye on all throughout the game because he can punish you at any minute in the game. And then Ferran Torres at the tip of the attacking line. So guys, do let me know where you're tuning in from. What do you expect in this game? Let me know where you are, how your day has been. Let's engage. And also leave me a like on the broadcast if you're just joining us. Then as far as the Barcelona bench go, they do have Inaki Pena, they have Ronald Araujo, Gavi, Ansu Fati, Pablo Torre, Andres Christensen, Fermin Lopez, Pau Victor, Eric Garcia, Hector Fort, and Astralaga. Yes, that's for the Barcelona bench. I can see Claire Backfield saying hi. Hi, Claire Backfield. I hope I pronounced your name right, correctly. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. Then on the side of Inter Milan, they do have Jan Sommer in goal. Sorry about that. Yes, in goal, Inter Milan have Jan Sommer. They do have they do have Alessandro Bastoni, Francesco Akabi, and Yannick Besic. That's for their back three. Remember, they play with the back three, and then they use the wing backs who join the midfield three and to form that sort of block of five, and then they add on the top two that lead the attack. So there we do have Federico Di Marco, we do have Henrik Mkhitaryan, Hakan Chanoglu, Nico Barrera, and Denzel Dumfries on that side. And then leading the lines is Marcus Thuram, who returns after being sidelined for quite some time, for a little bit of time through injury, and then Lautaro Martinez. One Marcus Marcus Thuram, one of those players that has had a wonderful season. So far, he has a tally of about 17 goals across all competitions. Yes, Lisandro Martinez is not having a season as great as he did have last season, but it is no less good because his numbers have equally been impressive across the campaign. So do let me know what you expect from him in today's fixture. He comes up against Barcelona. I can see Dragon Ball. Okay, bro. Hi, how are you doing? How has been your day? What's your expectation tonight? What's your prediction? Who do you think will carry the day in today's tie between Barcelona and Inter Milan? Let me know what you think. So that we continue to engage. Games. Games are won in the midfield. Once you dominate that midfield, then you give yourself a higher chance. So the question is, can Gavi and Frankie de Jong really contend with Nico Barrera, with Hakan Çalhanoğlu, with Henrik Mkhitaryan, Denzel Dumfries in that Inter Milan block in the midfield? Then can Rafinha and Lamine Yamal do enough to penetrate that that Inter Milan solid backline, because Inter Milan is one of those teams. I think they have as many as 8 clean sheets so far in 12 games played now up until this stage in the UEFA Champions League, because they played 8 at the big table format plus the 2 at the round of 16, so that's 10, and then at the quarterfinals that's another 2, and they have as many as 8 clean sheets. So clearly that tells you of their defensive prowesses. They play with the back three that then becomes a back five every time they are on the defensive, which is a beautiful setup. Many Italian managers have used that before, the likes of Thiago Motta last season, I think at Bologna. Then you had Antonio Conte does employ this same kind of system. So it's and then we all know about the old lady Juventus there. So it's their kind of style of play. It's really one that you do expect. Speaking of Lautaro Martinez, so far in the Italian Serie A, he's managed about 12 goals and 3 one of the putting balls in the back of the net. So they will be looking to rely on those Marcus Thuram and Lautaro Martinez to get the goals for Inter Milan. Simone Inzaghi, I mean, he does not have the experience of having won this competition before, as opposed to Hansi Flick, who did win it in 2020 with FC Bayern Munich when they beat up against Paris Saint-Germain at the finals in that season where he was winning the treble with Bayern Munich. So Simone Inzaghi is looking to make history. He's also looking to advance his team to another final, to advance his side for the second final in a space of 3 years. Because remember, in 2023 they were in the finals and lost to Manchester City by a goal to nil. That goal scored by Rodri. The last time Inter Milan won the UEFA Champions League was back in 2009-2010 season, when they went on to beat up against Bayern Munich in the finals by 2 goals to nil. So then under the charges of Jose Mourinho, but so far historically they've won the competition 3 times. The first coming in, I think, 1961 season, and then 62-63, because they won it 2 consecutive years there, and then only were able to redo it. As far as Barcelona is concerned, They have 5, UEFA Champions League titles to their name, so they do have the pedigree in this competition, much more better than Inter Milan could say for themselves, because Barcelona last won it in 2015 under Luis Enrique, but before that they had won it in 2011 with Pep Guardiola, and in 2009 with Pep Guardiola, both finals having to beat up against Manchester United. And then they also won it in 2006 with Frank Rijkaard. They were beating Arsenal in the final. So they do have the pedigree in terms of being at this stage. In terms of players that experienced players in their side, really there's not really many players that have the experience of playing the UEFA Champions League semi-final or later on, advancing to the final, because we're talking about a very young side in Barcelona. For most of their players, the likes of Inigo Martinez, Pau Kubasi, you're looking at players like Lamine Yamal, Pedri. So even Rafinha, not that he's young, but with all his age, he's not played so many UEFA Champions League games, because remember he joined them, was it last summer, but one, joining them from Leeds at that time, and the first good he's really come to life, because Hansi Flick has really trusted him to come good, and he's not really disappointed. He's been one of the standout players of the season across all competitions. I think he has about a 55 goal involvement for club and country combined, in as far as scoring goals and providing assists is concerned. That's Rafinha for you. So a very reliable player. And this Barcelona side is very relentless. They'll keep probing, they'll keep on, they just do not, go down without a fight. We're speaking about a Barcelona that we've seen squander a 2-0 lead versus Atletico Madrid, and then after squandering it, they were led by another 2 goals, so it was 4-2, and then they came back into the game and drew it 4-4. We saw it a couple of weeks back when they were led by 3-1 against Celta Vigo, and eventually won that game 4-3. Again, Rafinha scoring 2 goals in that one, and including the winning goal in the 90th minute, which was a penalty. So they're a team that even when you score 2 goals past them, it's not to say that they're never bothered, but they sort of have that belief that they can, come out on top eventually, even when they are down. So they do have that belief. They do have the manager's experience, which I think is quite crucial at this stage of the competition. If anything, we saw something. Maybe we saw a semblance of that yesterday as PSG beat up against Arsenal in the semi-finals. It was a manager in Luis Enrique who had outwitted Mikel Arteta, who has 0 experience at that stage, and Arsenal lost that game by 1-0. So clearly, when it comes to pedigree, when it comes to experience, those are things that do count at this stage in the UEFA Champions League. It's not to say that Inter Milan do not have a chance, because, like I said, defensively they are really solid. They're a team that is really hard to crack. I do not think there's a single game in the UEFA Champions League season where they conceded more than 2 goals. In any case, the only game that I seem to remember in which they conceded as many as 2 goals was that return leg in the quarterfinals versus Bayern Munich, because it ended in a 2-2 draw. So, and even in the first leg when they were beating up against FC Bayern Munich by 2-1, Lautaro Martinez did score, and then Thomas Muller scored an equalizer in the 85th minute. But then I think it was Fratesi who did come off the bench to score the winning goal. There, I think very late, of course, deep late on into the game. So they're a team that also never give up easily, and they will give themselves a chance. Especially bearing in mind that they are away from home. It's usually very advantageous for a team to start away from home and test kind of. I can see Manish Vasani. Yes, says chimpanzee. What are you trying to mean? You look like a chimpanzee, so you're a racist. I mean, I couldn't care any less if that's your opinion. In any case, it doesn't make you a better person saying that. Anyways, but thanks for tuning to the broadcast. And if you're new here, kindly consider subscribing. Yeah, we could use people like you. You help us grow, even when you have such negative comments. That will not deter us in any case. So you can even let us know where setting us up from. So like I was saying, I do not think that anything will deter anything will deter Inter Milan, because it's always advantageous to play the first leg away from home, because there's a way it gives you a chance, a bit of a chance, a fighting chance, when you go away from home and maybe you lose, or you get a draw. If you get a goalless draw, it's good for you. Never mind that there's no longer away goals rule, so even if it were a 2-all draw, it wouldn't really matter much. But it's sort of, you always have the advantage when the last leg is at home. You always have a better fighting chance. When you look at teams like Aston Villa, never mind that they were eventually knocked out by PSG, they were able to beat up against PSG by 3-2 in the return leg. Only that wasn't good enough for them to advance. Then when you look at, of course, we all know what happened to Real Madrid. They did not give themselves a chance against Arsenal, but then also we do remember Inter Milan themselves winning away at Bayern Munich, and then drawing the game at San Siro. That was enough for them to advance to this stage of the semi-finals. We all remember Barcelona beating up against Borussia Dortmund by 4-0 at their own home turf. And when they went away to the Signal Iduna Park, they lost that game by 3-1. Now, again, it felt a bit shaky for Barcelona because of the environment that was at the Signal Iduna Park, and almost they were on the verge of being knocked out because they didn't play well that day. Even the goal that they managed to get in that game was an own goal. So it's always advantageous for any team that does play their final game at home. And just to bring in yesterday's case, that of Arsenal, it's not to say that Arsenal cannot do it, but again, it puts them at a very big disadvantage, knowing that the return leg is away from home at Parc de France. So guys, do let me know what your predictions are. Inter Milan versus Barcelona. For me, I think Barcelona will win this one by maybe 2-1 Barcelona. I do not think Inter Milan. I think Inter Milan will do whatever it takes not to concede too many goals. But that Barcelona side just have a knack for poking holes in defenses, and they just know how to score too many goals. Sometimes they just came out of the weekend where they're in high spirits after winning the Copa del Rey final, beating up against Real Madrid, their arch rivals, by 3-2. And in the aftermath of that particular game, players like Antonio Rudiger have been, given a 6-match ban for unsporting characters because he attempted to throw something at the match official. Excuse me, that was after he was withdrawn. And then the other player that has been given a 2-match ban, that's I think Lucas Vazquez. Yes, he's been banned for 2 games. Then Jude Bellingham walked away scot-free. He has not been banned. But anyway, for Antonio Rudiger, his season was already as good as that because he had to undergo a knee surgery. He said he had played for 7 months through pain. And then David Alaba is one of those that have gotten themselves injured, and his season is equally as good as that. But Real Madrid team doctors did say that they will be looking forward to getting him ready for the FIFA Club World Cup that does start there in June in the United States. Remember, that competition is going to have 32 teams and will be played, I think, across 11 cities in the United States of America. So it has teams like Real Madrid, Man City, Chelsea. You do have, I think, Mamelodi Sundowns from Africa and El Ahly, those kinds of teams. So teams from South America and that kind of thing. It's a competition we've spoken about before. You can do check out that video on the channel when we spoke about the FIFA Club World Cup that will be coming our way this summer. Anyways, my prediction, like I said, is a 2-1. Never mind that I got the yesterday's prediction wrong, because my prediction had been a 3-1 victory for Arsenal. But I also remember putting in a disclaimer that while that was my prediction, I didn't know where Arsenal's goals were going to come from, because it looked like they were going to struggle to score goals, and indeed they did score. And the only goal they had managed to score was ruled out for offside, which was a header from Mikel Merino and that kind of thing. So, but when it comes to Barcelona, goals can come from anywhere. Lamine Yamal can score you a good goal. Rafinha is the usual suspect. Ferran Torres did score one against Real Madrid. So for them, really goes do come from many places. For the side of Inter Milan, they'll have to look at Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram for their goals. Hakani Chanoglu is one of those players that can strike that ball really well from distance. We do remember him for his time at AC Milan. And even at Inter Milan, he's been doing the kind of same thing. Given their age, the likes of Henrik Mkhitaryan, I would want to really witness how they do contend with the best of the game, because we are talking about an Inter Milan side that has 22 players who have played 500 plus minutes, and yet they are aged 29 plus. 12 of those players are 32 plus, and 5 of them are 35 and above. So clearly, age could be an issue. When you have young players like Lamine Yamal, like Paul Kubasi, like Pedri, of course, Rafinha is not so young, but he's still in his prime, making you run circles around the pitch, they could wear you out really easily. But anyways, allow me to close it here and wish you a wonderful rest of the evening. Enjoy today's fixture, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. I will be back here possibly at halftime if we do get the opportunity to speak, and even at full time. That's after the game is done and dusted. So be sure to keep it locked on the Footballtribeug channel, and I'll see you guys next time. But before I sign out, allow me to say my shout outs to Claire Backfield. Thank you for joining us earlier on the broadcast. Dragon Ball, thank you so much for joining us as well. And Manish Vasani, who had some unkind comments, but he did come back to say, I'm joking. Maybe next time he will do better. But anyways, have a wonderful rest of the night and enjoy the game. Bye-bye.